You know, you hear names like Captain America or Master Chief, and you think of these incredible, heroic fighting machines, right? Stuff straight out of science fiction. But what if I told you that the whole idea of a super soldier is starting to walk right out of the comic books and into the real-world labs of military planners? We're going to explore the super soldier peril, and you'll see, the line between hero and weapon is getting seriously blurry. So yeah, this is the big question. Is this all just sci-fi fantasy, or are we talking about a near-future reality? And, you know, this isn't just a fun debate for a fan convention anymore. We're going to break down the science, the strategy, and the absolutely staggering ethical tightrope of the engineered super soldier, a reality that could reshape our world in ways we're only just beginning to grasp. All right, so let's start from the top. When we say engineered super soldier, what are we actually talking about? Before we get into the whole ethical minefield, we've got to have a really clear definition. Now listen, this isn't about better armor or bigger guns. We are talking about fundamentally rewriting human biology itself. It's about creating soldiers who maybe don't need to sleep, or who don't feel pain, or who can process information as fast as a computer. This really is the new frontier of warfare. But you know, this kind of ambition, it always comes with a price. So in this next part, the soldier's price, we're going to look at why military research is so drawn to this, and what the profound personal cost could be for the actual soldier. And look, the argument for this tech, it's incredibly compelling, you can't deny it. Just imagine soldiers who are immune to diseases on the battlefield, or who can survive what would normally be catastrophic injuries. Or what about soldiers with senses so sharp they could spot a threat from a mile off? The promise here is all about making soldiers more effective, and in doing so, saving the lives of their teammates. And this, right here, really shows you the temptation. On one side, you've got all the human frailties we know so well: fatigue, fear, physical injury. But on the other, you have a theoretical soldier who's beyond all that. I mean, when victory is on the line, the appeal of creating a warrior who has no weaknesses, well, for military planners, that's almost impossible to resist. Okay, but this is where that ethical slope gets incredibly slippery. We've talked a lot about the super, but what about the soldier? You know, the human being that's underneath all of those enhancements. The hidden toll here is just immense. I mean, just think about it for a second. We're talking about irreversible genetic changes with a whole lifetime of unknown side effects. What happens to a person's mind when core emotions, things like fear or empathy, are literally engineered away? And at what point does a soldier, a person with a family, a future, at what point do they stop being a person and just become a programmable weapon? That line, that critical line between healing someone and just enhancing them, it gets completely erased. But see, the problem doesn't just stop with the individual soldier. The second one nation actually pulls this off, the entire global dynamic just shifts. This isn't just some new piece of tech, it's a whole new paradigm. And the path to escalation is it's a terrifyingly logical chain of events. The moment one country says, hey, look what we can do, it triggers a domino effect. Their rivals are going to feel forced to start their own crash programs, and that sparks a brand new, totally unstable arms race. But this time, it's not for nuclear warheads, it's for the human genome itself. And all of a sudden, the threshold for starting a conflict could get dangerously low. Man, this quote from the source material, it really puts everything into perspective. We're not just talking about some small improvement here. This is a fundamental, game-changing leap, right up there with the invention of the atomic bomb. It's something that would alter not just how wars are fought, but what it even means to be a soldier. And this leads us to the final, and honestly, the most chilling part of this whole thing. What happens when this Pandora's box is finally opened, and the technology gets out? And here it is. This is the core warning. History shows us time and time again that no weapon, no matter how advanced or how closely guarded, stays exclusive forever. It happened with gunpowder. It happened with nuclear secrets. Technology always spreads. And genetic engineering tech is not going to be any different. So what does that look like? Well, it leads to some pretty nightmarish scenarios. What happens when this power isn't in the hands of a government, but a terrorist cell? What happens when the genetic code for a super soldier is stolen and sold on the dark web? You know, as biotechnology gets cheaper and easier to get, that barrier to entry just collapses. And that could unleash horrors that we can't even begin to predict. I think this final quote it says it all. The real weapon isn't the soldier, it's the technology itself. Because once the knowledge of how to fundamentally re-engineer a human for combat is out there in the world, you can never, ever unlearn it. The target is no longer a specific enemy, it's global stability itself. So at the end of the day, we're left with this one huge, urgent question. The conversation really isn't about if this will happen anymore. It's about when and how. The temptation to get that advantage is incredibly powerful, but the consequences of letting this technology loose could be totally irreversible. That line is right in front of us, and the debate about where to draw it, well, it needs to happen right now before it's too late.